the fact that I'm so invested, I'm looking for the holes of it being pure. Like, so the umpires I have a big gripe with.
Yeah, what is your number one crusade? Because that day that I feel like I kind of cracked a door open where I was just like, like the Little League World Series got brought up. I mentioned to you that my hometown, the kids my age that I ended up going to high school with, two of those age groups both played in the Little League World Series. That's kind of how I got into it. It was like guys I knew were playing in it. And I like cracked a door open, and you drove a fucking Mack truck through that with like, sit down and let me tell you about all the gripes I have. And I was into it, but I couldn't keep up with you, Rico.
I mean, there's so many, dude.
What's the number one?
Well, it's funny you say guys you talk to. I pitched a oral history of the Danny Almonte type thing because I went and tracked down a kid on Facebook from a Popka Little League. And my pitch was like the headline was going to be the kids who saved the world because they beat Almonte and they won the state. Now, the other thing is, that's why I get so mad about the cheating. You're only 12 once. Mm-hmm. You take away this experience. So where it really came from was my brother got a job lifeguarding with a friend of his. They were both lifeguards. We go back to their house. My brother's like, come pick me up at my buddy's house. I'm like, okay. They're standing in the kitchen. I'm waiting to leave. I'm going to drive them out. He looks at the fridge of a newspaper article and goes, that was fucking you? And the kid goes, what are you talking about? This team was so good against my brother that they were going to mercy him. They pulled the kid, whose house it was, Joe, pull him off of first base, no practice swings, puts a helmet on, hits one 45 feet over my brother's head in center field. He was like, they were loaded. My dad was like, they got the pitching, like they're really, really good. So I asked him that day, I go, how far'd you get? He goes, Almonte. And what people don't know is that Danny Almonte not only was too old and took this kid's dream away, he also didn't live there. So, like, where are you from in India? Or Staten Island, New York, right?
Yeah.
Rico Bosco plays in South Shore Little League, and I play for the Mets. And my team goes 9-7. And in late May, they select the All-Stars to start practicing. Right. Danny Almonte did not play at Ronnie Paulino Little League, or whatever it was called. He did not play in the Bronx. He lived in the fucking Dominican Republic, and they shipped him up like 2 days before. Now, South Shore was protesting that. They weren't even protesting the age. So he was doubly illegal.
Double cheating.
That. Yeah, so that's when I was like, shit, like, like go into it. And then my dad's a really good umpire. He tried to get into that, and it was told, like, they're only going to select you for the regionals if you pay these fees. So to answer your question, my number one gripe is the umpires. You got a $60 million deal, and if you're going to – and everybody's like, oh, they're volunteers. Like, don't get crazy. Well – but the volunteers matter. I say it all the time. In youth sports, like when you're reffing, you're getting paid $30. I'm not going to scream and yell at you, but like, if you can't run, you can't ref. Like, I don't expect you to, you come into the office, you're like, hey, I'm having trouble with my car. I'm like, you know what? Give me $50. I'll go look at the muffler. And I don't know shit about a thing. I took your money. You got to have some respect. Like, you can't do the job. You can't do it. So they got to get better umps. And they take the money. It's a money grab.
Yeah, it does seem hypocritical to have an organization that is signing television contracts and collecting tens of millions of dollars, but then at the same time exalting the virtues of amateurism and saying that, and not only amateurism, it's more the volunteer aspect of it all. That like this and creating this like this world where they cannot be criticized because all these umpires are volunteers and they're just like local guys that are car mechanics and in their spare time they want to umpire Little League games. But to your point, it's like, well, if that is in fact the case, why are you cashing all these checks? Why are you putting this on television? Right. Why are you, how has this become a big business? Like, pick a lane. Which one are you going to be? Are you going to be if you're going to just get volunteers off the street, that's perfectly fine. And all those people, I don't even have a problem with the umps. Like, I try not to go at the umps. I know the line gets crowded because I'm like,
look
at this. How many TikToks have you made?
Look at this fucking asshole. But I always make the point.
With the umps and you're like, this fucking scumbag, I will cut his head off if I see him.
You see the one? They couldn't count to 3. Yeah. They couldn't count to 3 strikes, Mark. Like, what are we doing?
The funniest part about you, Rico, with the Little League is that every single time you go on a rant, you are right. Every single time. And for some reason, I mean, I'm calling a spade. I think it's the subject matter and how unhinged you are that, like, it's a non-starter from some people.
Oh, without a doubt. They're like, read the comments. Get a life. You're 36. What are you doing? They're 12. They're volunteers. I'd like to see you do it. I'm like, listen, you got every right to judge me. But, again, if they were just volunteers off the street and that's how it was and pick out of a hat, like, all good. but you're making $60 million, and that deal
So
ended
explain-
in 2013.
Explain again
2022.
how the umpire
So
process works.
So the way it works is that you have, at least on Staten Island, you have the island tournament, then you go to the cities, then you go to state, you win the state, you go to the regionals. To get up to the state is all like organized. The state organizes the umpires, all volunteers. When you start getting to the regionals, if you want to advance out of the state and go to the regionals, you have to be selected by the regional, but the only way you really get there, none of this is on paper, but it's all wink, wink. The only way you get to the regional is by signing up for their camps, their evaluation camps, or their clinics at $275 a pop. And I can tell you for a fact, I bet you there's 0% of guys who go to their first camp and then get selected that year for the regional.
Yeah.
So they're banking them for $275 and then $275 again. And then from the regionals, the only way you get selected out of the regionals, do a couple of years of regionals, and then you go to Williamsport. So they don't have the best umps. They just have the ones with the deepest pockets. While their TV deal is $60 million. Actually, the TV deal that was $60 million ended in 2022. This one is so big, it's not publicized.
Again,
You can't. How much is a flight? Like, how much is a flight? And it's so easy. I laid out the process. Everyone's like, how would you fix it? Everything's taped. I've watched everything. I was tweeting the kid did a bat flip in like North Carolina in a regional tournament. Or not even a regional, sectional. I had that video. Like everything. I'm also in these I've acquired. You're asking like who would talk about? I found all the guys on the internet who know Little League. Like we got a little crew. Probably under federal investigation, but of like, why do you care? But we just love baseball. We love sports. That's all it is. Nothing to see here. So they're like, how would you fix it? Everything's visualized. So the state tournaments, watch them. You get a week before you go to the regionals. Watch them, and then send the best guys to the region. You're also talking about a guy from like Long Island going to Bristol, Connecticut. How much? Like a hotel for a week in Bristol, Connecticut? It's not necessarily backbreaking. It might not even a flight. You pay for his gas. And then all the regionals, you judge all those. And again, when did those end? Friday? Those guys are willing to go. Or, maybe you do it off a year prior. So 2022's performance gets you into 2023. And then you go from there. The best regionals, they get graded out and they go. It's very simple. It's not backbreaking cost. Maybe you throw them like, I don't know, $1,000 for the week. These are guys who are willing to take off on a Wednesday at 4:00 to do a fucking regional game anyway. They're not necessarily making $300,000. I think $1,000 might go a long way in a nice hotel room. Maybe
You're
stock
not
the
wrong.
mini bar.
This is how my understanding is this is how every other sport works. Like this is how college basketball works. Whether as much as college basketball fans think that every ref is terrible, and they're probably right. Like I think the way that the NCAA goes about it is, in their estimation, they have some sort of rubric. They have some sort of system at play where they watch all the refs. The best refs move on to like the next round, and like you don't ref a Final Four in a national championship unless you're considered by the NCAA.
Everywhere. You don't ref a
as one of
Super
the best-
Bowl without doing a couple of playoff games. Yeah, for sure.
So you would think that Little League would work the same way, but you're telling everybody it doesn't work that way, and that's a fair gripe. That's what I mean. It's a fair gripe. It's just like I think when you click on a TikTok and it's Rico Bosco unhinged yelling about Little League umpires.
He couldn't count to
It's
3.
a fight you can't win, Rico, and I'm here to
can't.
say I'm on your side. I just like. Unfortunately, I don't know how we're going to win this fight. I don't know how we're going to get people to.
Well, they need a plan. They need a commissioner. Like Steve Keener's got to go. He's got to go. Oh, and take a guess. How much does Steve Keener make for his salary?
How much does he make?
$450,000 a year. It's insane.
Oh,
it's insane.
My God.
60
Just
million, 450,000. It's nuts. So that's gripe number one. TJ told me I think Mount Rushmore's. Number two, this is the dumbest one, the rotary lineup. I think we're only going to get a year of this. All 13 guys, come on.
Yeah, this is a new rule that they put in this year. So the old rule used to be that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that guys had to play. I think they've changed it a bunch though. But like when I was playing Little League, I remember it being as you have to either play 1 half inning in the field for 3 outs, or you have to take 1 at bat. I think somewhere along the line they said you have to do both, right?
Yes. So I'll give you a great story about that. So a friend of mine's dad was an umpire for a long time, took a team to the Little League World Series. And if he was down it would only work if he was the home team. If he was Hold on a second. No, it would only work, I'm sorry, if he was the away team. So in the top of the 6th, he hadn't put his subs yet in. The rule in the beginning, like when I was playing, 98, 2001, it was 3 consecutive outs in the field or an at-bat. So what he would do, if they were down and he tied the game in the top of the 6th, only then would he put in his subs for the bottom of the 6th. So there was a lot of time. It's actually a good strategy when you think about it.
Yeah.
But a lot of those kids didn't play.
Yeah.
Now I think they made a rule where, like, even if you did that, you can get, like, suspended for the next game because they want to make sure everybody plays. Then they switched it to 3 consecutive outs and an at-bat, which is really difficult to juggle when you're 12. And now the new rule is, by the way, those guys, like, that's tough. Subbing in, when are you going to sub?
No, I mean, that was part of the appeal to me, was that every Little League team, stereotypically, no matter how good or bad you are, you have one kid at least that has hit puberty before everyone. Certainly at the Little League World Series level, because that's how you got to this point. Is you have a kid that's shaving, and he probably is your pitcher and the guy that mashes all the home runs. But inevitably, there's one kid on the team that doesn't necessarily stink. He's just like 4'7",
right?
And he's good at laying down. But he's probably the coach's son, because the coach, not always. Like, there's some coaches' sons who are the guy who hit puberty, but like a lot of times, the guy who's coaching the team, he's coaching it so he can put his son on the team.
Well,
and
did you watch
stinks.
Northern Cal, Southern Cal, that final?
I did, yes.
The kid from Southern California, they didn't start him. He was supposed to be the best player in the whole tournament, and he did the coach's son, and we're going to get robbed of seeing this kid. So there's always that nepotism as it goes. But now the rule is consecutive batters, all 12 or 13 have to bat, which is insanity.
So stupid.
There's 18 outs. 12 of them have to. So let me ask you this, strategy-wise. Where would you bat your best player?
I mean, you'd have to. I bet him first so he gets multiple at-bats. Because you're worried.
When it first came around, it was like reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
Like, it was the first time they saw water. Guys were like, oh, shit. You know what? Now you have to bat the best kid first because you only get the 18 outs.
Right.
And they might get 3 at-bats or 4 at-bats. Like, get that kid up. There's no fucking around. That kid bats first. In
a pitcher's duel, that kid, if he gets 2 at-bats, he's getting 2 at-bats in a baseball
without
game.
a doubt. Yeah, it's crazy.
This was an appeal of it was that you had to figure out what to do with the kid that's 4'7", and like, because even in the scenario that you said where these kids, like, the coaches don't play them until you see what happens in the top of the 6th, and maybe you come back and tie it. Now we go to the bottom of the 6th. But even in that scenario, like, it's a risk because now you got to throw your 2 kids out there that can't throw the ball, and they're out there playing in the outfield.
Yeah, and, or second base. Yeah,
or second. So it's fascinating. That's part of the game. That's what makes it fun, is that there's no lead is safe. Now all of a sudden, I hate this rule with the lineup deal. That, like, again, explain to people, because this might be going over people's heads.
Rotary lineup is, if you could get a waiver based on population that you didn't have to select 12 guys. Most teams take 12. Some have 13. In this day and age, and South Shore did it too. Shout out Pork Chop. If you took 13 now, I think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. You're adding another guy in there. So there are some places in small populations that have 11, and they only have to bat the 11. But basically, it's like men's league softball. There's like OH, like, everyone bats. So there's 9 guys in the field, and 11 guys or 12 guys now bat all the way through. If you did that in your in-house Little League and, like, nobody's making it to the bigs, and it's like, let's just kind of keep everything okay and nobody's ever really good, I could see that. This is all-stars. Like, all of a sudden we're going to start letting everybody play. Like, I don't know. They didn't do it at Ohio State. They didn't do it, where I played. Like, you get on the field based on your merit. And they're all-stars. And the thing you're doing, too, is not tricking the kids. But if you ask the kid to set the lineup, there's no bullshit with them. They're 12 years old. They don't have to
exactly.
Do it. Like, hey, Mark's a better hitter than me. He probably should start in center field, and he's going to lead off. And, like, I'll get my spot when I can. I'm confident in my abilities. But I'll come in the 4th inning, maybe get a good at bat, lay down a bunt, make a nice play. Like, that's my contribution. Nobody can play 48 minutes on the floor in basketball all the time. Nobody can bat. Like, what are we doing?
So, like everything else with youth sports, it's the parents that are ruining it, because you're exactly right that the kids themselves, if left to their own devices, I think the kids would be like, Yeah, I don't need to bat. Why don't we bat the kid that's hit puberty as many
They
times
wanna
as
win.
possible?
They also
I don't-
wanna
Yeah,
win.
they all want to win. Yeah.
And the
They all wanna
sacrifice
win.
that the parents have put, which probably leads to the next one of the gripes, the announcers belittling the competition. So these kids, my mother did it with my brother. Like, you're juggling. When are we getting to practice? They never made it off the island, but if you make it off the island, all right, I got to get home. I'm not working overtime, so I can get to Bristol for the weekend, or I need days off, or I'm buying you a new bat, traveling, miles, hotels, add it up. Like, and the kids are giving up their summer. You know, they're not going to social event. Like, they're in twice a day. They're practicing. That's how it usually is. So, like, don't belittle the competition. So these announcers, when a kid gives up a home run, and they'll be like, oh, you know, crushing home run in a 1-0 win, they'll be like, oh, you know what? That's not that bad. They'll go back to the dorms and play ping pong and eat ice cream. No. You don't get to fucking say how this kid cares about the game. He's crushed. Now, at 12, you have a way longer time frame to get over it. But in the moment, he's crushed, and he deserves that right to take it seriously. Don't belittle my fucking experience. Don't belittle their experience. They sacrificed their whole summer. It's the worst loss of their career in that moment. It's bullshit.
I love
like, they'll go back to the dorms. What the fuck am I going to do at the dorms? I just lost.
I love this from you as well. Is I don't know if I feel quite as I see both sides. Like the video of the kid that gives up the grand slam and then he's like high-fiving the guy that just hit the grand slam off of him.
That's the worst. I got that written down. That kid's getting pulled. Get out of here.
I won't lie, Rico. Like, I hate it. I do. Like, if it was my kid, I feel like I would talk to him. I'd be like, listen, buddy, we don't have to high-five guys when they humiliate us. Like,
they tell these kids to do it. They, without a doubt, tell the kids to do that.
I won't lie, Rico. Like, I have a soft spot for it. Like, when I see it, I'm like, that's nice. You know? Like, that's nice.
Yeah, but it's nice, but it shows me, it shows me you got a problem with the ticker. It shows me a little weak in the knees. You don't have the killer instinct. Those kids, those are the ones, and the ones who cry, like, don't cry. Be tough. As soon as you cry, my dad's big on that too. Look at this fucking kid. He's like, here we go, waterworks.
So,
like, you know.
Do you watch this, or are you scouting? Like, are you?
I judge people's character. Like, I could tell you a winner by watching. Yeah, I'd scout a little bit. I could tell you. I can tell you the makeup. Sports is about makeup. We want to see who's tough.
You're not wrong. I just like I think I have the exact same thoughts you do. I just ultimately, my conclusion is just ultimately like, frankly, I don't really give a shit what happens to these kids after this tournament. So like, if this kid does not in fact have the dog in him, I don't care that much. So I just like, oh, that's nice. You know, that's nice. I don't love it. I would prefer they don't. But I think the alternative is like, I don't want kids like hitting home runs and then, I mean, they'll do the bat flips. That's fine, I guess. But I don't want kids doing like this suck it crotch chop as they're running to first base at the pitch.
I think we don't need
that in the little league. You know what I mean?
There should be a line of sportsmanship. That's what's weird too, is that I am the big sportsmanship guy too. Like, I don't want people hot dogging, so they're like, it's a fine line to walk.
It's a fine line.
The other thing with the announcers too is, listen, it's 2:30 on Wednesday in August. The entire world is on vacation. I'm locked in watching the Great Lakes against the Midwest. You don't have to tell me that the mound is 60 feet or the mound's 46 feet and the bases are 60 feet. Okay? Guys, Carl, I've been here before. I'm watching it. You don't have to remind me all that. Stop with the ground rules all the time.
Stop with the can we stop with the MLB equivalent bullshit too?
Stop.
Where they're just like, this is a 75 mile an hour fastball is like a major leaguer facing 120 mile an hour. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Which I still know. I still don't understand. I also still don't understand that. My dad tried to explain. That's why I failed science. My dad tried to explain it like, well, think about it this way. Like, from this far, I still don't get it. To this day.
We need John. You know what we need, Rico? We need John Brinkus from Sports Science to break it down
something
for us.
like
That's
that.
the only time.
That's the only time I
understand.
it out. But like, dude, it's like, dude, know your audience. The only people watching this are tuned in. They're not coming across and need to know that it's 46 feet. Like, just, I don't know, put a graphic up once. Stop telling us all that stuff and stop belittling the kids.